Innovation diffusion and innovation adoption are two ideas that we want to talk about now. Understanding innovation diffusion and adoption is important because these two ideas relate and connect the user community and the customer marketplace. And so that connection is a way in which we take the single idea of an innovation and see how it's relevant out there in practice. How is it defined? Innovation is defined, we use the definition by Everett Rogers, who was a social scientist and an expert on communication in communities. And what he did is he looked at how an agricultural practice was diffused and used and transferred in a farming community. And so what he studied was the process by which an innovative agricultural approach, maybe it was the use of seeds, maybe it was the use of planting techniques, maybe it was the use of some harvesting techniques, how that idea spread among various people in a farming community. And so this idea was picked up by the business community and applied to how innovations are actually diffused and adopted in customer communities. So this slide is a view of a couple of innovation rates, and as you can see, one innovation is adopted in a very quick pattern. It's a very high rate of adoption, and then it flattens out. Another innovation is adopted at a little slower rate, and then the third one is adopted at an even slower rate. And so what we want to look at in the notion of innovation, diffusion, and adoption is the rate at which an innovation is adopted in the marketplace and used in the marketplace and accepted in the marketplace. And so innovation adoption defined, we can define that, the adoption idea. It parallels the innovation pattern and classifies the rate of acceptance of an innovation by the type of individual consumer. What we're going to see is that innovations aren't adopted all at the same rate by the same types of people. There are different people in the marketplace, there are different types of customers, different types of users, in different types of circumstances, so there are all kinds of ways that the rate at which an innovation is adopted can be influenced. So first, let's look at this slide here. This is basically a bell curve, and it's an idealistic portrayal of the innovation adoption cycle. And as you'll see, that it starts out very slow and it peaks, and then it tails off. And so this is a convenient way to look at how innovations are adopted in the marketplace. And so what we're going to do is look at each one of those segments and give you some feel for how they occur, when they occur, and why they occur. So the first type of adopter is what we'd call the techies. These are people who are the first 2.5% of customers or users in the marketplace to actually adopt something. The people, who were the people that had the cell phones first? Who were the people that had adopted the use of cameras on their cell phones first? Those are the ones that we would call essentially techies or gatekeepers. They play a role of allowing other people to recognize how that innovation is used. And so they're kind of at the forefront. They are the demonstrators of the value of that innovation. So if we look at this figure again, we see that there they are down there on the left-hand side, just 2.5% of what's under that curve, 2.5% of the total marketplace, 2.5% of the people who are going to adopt that innovation. So there are very few people who start out, and they are essentially, we call them the techies, the innovators. They're the people who are out there in the forefront that are adopting that innovation early. So now let's come back to the second category. Second category is what we would call early adopters. And we label these people visionaries. They see the value of the idea of the innovation, and they are about 13.5% if we idealize it under the curve, and they decrease the uncertainty about the viability and applicability of the innovation. And because if just 2.5% of the people adopted it, maybe the rest of the people who are potential market users of that innovation wouldn't be so interested in it. But when you see the next stage of adopters, those visionaries, those early adopters, that's another 13.5%. So you've got almost 15% of the people who are showing that this innovation has value and they're demonstrating its use. So let's look at this figure again, and we see that now the innovation adoption cycle, we've got another progression of adopters. And so we're beginning to get people in the marketplace now who are actually adopting this, and it's not just a tiny amount, but it's 15%. It's a pretty good amount. So let's now look at the third category of adopters. We call these the early majority. We still haven't reached halfway yet, but these we would call pragmatists. And the pragmatists are another 34% of individuals in the marketplace who adopt. And it's another stage of adoption. And early majority adopters demonstrate actually a strong willingness and a deliberate willingness to adopt the innovation, but they are seldom leaders. They are usually followers of those people who we mentioned earlier, the lead users. So looking at this diagram again, now we begin to see that the early majority, or the pragmatists, these are the people who say, okay, we've seen the visionaries adopt this, we've seen the techies adopt this, now we're going to adopt it as well. So these are significant. This is half of the marketplace now is adopting this innovation. So they are moving right along. So now let's look at the fourth category. The fourth category of adopters are what we call the late majority, or the conservatives. These are the people who are reluctant to adopt something until almost everybody shows that this innovation has value, it has utility, it has purpose, it has some benefit for everybody. So they are late to the party, but they arrive. And now we look at this, this figure, and now we see that the early majority and the late majority and all those people up front have adopted, and now we've got a huge amount of people who are actually using that innovation. And I would say one example of where we might be in terms of an example of a product that's been adopted is we might say mobile phones are at this level. There's almost nobody who doesn't have a mobile phone now, at least in this country. So let's now look at the final category of the types of adopters. We call them laggards or skeptics. This last 16% of the individuals are resistant to accepting the innovation for a variety of reasons. And marketers are looking at this all the time, but trying to reach those people. But mostly people who are marketing an innovation are really very happy to have just the early majority, because that's a huge market. If you get the late majority, you are going to be a fantastic success. Almost no people who are in the business of selling innovations and providing innovations in the marketplace are really making a lot of effort to try and reach the last category, the laggards or the skeptics. So we look at this, this figure again, and we see that the light shaded area is really the market that is being served by the innovation. And so it's just a small amount, maybe it's 15% of the market that isn't being served, but people are very happy, who are producing innovations are very happy to have this much of the marketplace. So in summary, what we want to say about innovation and adoption, it's a very powerful way of seeing the patterns, not only the time pattern, but the geographic pattern and the distribution of how an innovation gets adopted. So the diffusion process that's displayed here is idealistic. It's under a standard bell curve, but you know, some innovations are going to be different curves. But it's a good way to understand how an innovation is accepted in a marketplace. And I think the value of portraying this is you can easily adjust your conceptual framework to interpret how a given innovation is actually influencing the marketplace.